Hey guys, this is Professor Beke bringing you Africa Culture Chronicles, where we speak about everything African culture and history. Today we want to discuss another factor why the scramble for Africa happened. And the specific factor we want to talk about today is the British occupation of Egypt in 1882. This really escalated tensions in Africa, tensions specifically between the British and the French. So just keep in mind here that there was a Franco-Prussian War in which France was defeated. So now it looks like France is being defeated the second time in Africa, right, with Britain occupying Egypt. This is humiliation for the French. The reason for this is that Egypt is strategically important, and control of the Suez Canal is also very important. And France does not want to lose the total control of the Suez Canal to Britain, right? So this cuts really to the heart of French national pride. Why is this occupation really important for the French and other European nations, right? So think about it. There's always, when you look at these situations in Africa with the European, so there's always financial interest here. European powers, particularly Britain and France, right? They invested heavily in the modernization of Egypt. Of course, Egypt was borrowing a lot of money for this, and Egypt is carrying so much debt. Egypt is going through a debt crisis. And when Egyptian nationalists that are led by Ahmed Urabi rebelled against the foreign influence in Egypt, Britain decided to intervene. The rebels, Urabi and co., they were basically like, do we even have a sovereign country? All of these Europeans are here. They are controlling everything, right? Our sovereignty is at stake. Let's take over. And Britain, trying to protect its economic investments in Egypt, right? Britain decided to invade Egypt, right? And to occupy Egypt. Britain also decided to act unilaterally and quickly because it feared that France, under the Prime Minister, Freycinet, might support the Urabi government, which will now give France, right, a dominant position in Egypt, right? So Britain is being suspicious of French moves, right? Being concerned that France might decide to support the Urabi so that they will have more interest in what happens in Egypt. So in order to beat the French to this, they quickly decided to occupy Egypt so they can safeguard their financial interests, and also they can secure the Suez Canal. However, what Britain did, right, had repercussions that were far beyond Egypt. It made the French anxious about Britain's imperial ambitions, particularly concerning control of the Nile River, which is vital for Egypt's economy. France is wondering, what might Egypt do next, right? Will Egypt leverage its control over the river to further its own imperial interest? In reaction to what Egypt did, France decided to initiate the Marchand mission, which was a covert expedition led by Captain Jean-Baptiste Marchand, and it was aimed at establishing French control over the upper Nile. This was a super secret mission, and France was moving money quietly without Britain knowing what is happening. And of course, this mission ended with the French raising their flag at Fashoda in 1898. This was a very bold move. By the French raising their flag here, they were challenging Britain's claim to the region, right? They said, our flag is flying here, so you do not have any claim to region. Of course, Britain is not going to stay quiet. Britain is also going to respond. And this almost brought Britain and France to war. The two nations almost fought each other in Africa. However, they were able to work things out, right? Because none of them, and most especially the French, did not want a full-scale conflict, right, with the British in Africa. So how this will be resolved is France will relinquish its claim to the Sudan. And this also forced both nations, right, to reassess their colonial aspirations and also made them form some sort of alliance, right? Some cooperation with each other, which led to an agreement in 1904, right? And part of the alliance or the agreement that they will form as a result of this was also very pivotal against Germany in the years that preceded World War I. So when we think about the British occupation of Egypt, this was an important catalyst for the scramble for Africa, right? What it did was it intensified the rivalry between European powers, and yes, specifically between France and Britain. And it also fueled this interest or this determination to secure territories and resources across the continent. Even when you think about the events, the incidents around Fashoda, even though it was resolved peacefully, but it also underscores the perils of unchecked imperial ambitions, right? And the necessity to find diplomatic solutions to colonial disputes. But the key thing to keep in mind here is that when Britain occupied Egypt, this really raised interest in the French and other European powers, right? Most especially with the French beginning to think about expansionist ways or means in other parts of Africa. In our next episode, we'll talk more about some other factors that led to the scramble for Africa. Thank you.